Hi guys, it's Reilly back again with another all-English episode. Solo this time, so sorry to those of you that were hoping that Yuki would be back. I think there's a pretty good chance she'll be back again to talk on a future episode, but I think most of the time it's gonna be me. But anyway, some of you might remember last year I went to a touch rugby tournament, and I went again this year over the past weekend. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that for this episode. But before that, I should do the Instagram. So mine is Reilly Sullivan XD, and Sota is eigonosota. So please go ahead and give them a follow if you want. Anyway, without further ado, let's get going. Yeah, so I'll start off with a little bit of background. Last year, we were invited to a touch rugby tournament by and kind of a JET association. So JET is, kind of an organization that does ALT work, meaning they kind of bring English speakers from around the world to come help in English classrooms in Japan. And there's an organization called AJET, which is kind of the extracurricular, like the non-classroom side of the organization. They kind of try to organize, get-togethers and meetings with the community and kind of sports and stuff like that. And so even though I'm not a Jet and never have been, I was invited to this last year along with some friends who were Jets. And touch rugby, by the way, it's kind of like rugby. I mean, it's rugby in the sense that you have to pass backward and that you have to get the ball over a line and then touch it to the ground in order to score points. But aside from that, there's not a whole lot of similarities. I mean, there's no tackling, there's no kicking. So the way it works is if you get touched, then you have to put the ball down, and another person on your team will pick it up behind you and pass it to somebody else. And you can do that a total of 6 times until the ball turns over, meaning goes to the other team. Likewise, if you drop the ball or if you go out of bounds or something like that, the ball goes to the other team. But anyway, that's the basics of touch rugby. This year, we weren't invited, but because we were there last year, we knew how to talk to the organizers and stuff. So I tried to get a group of people to go. Some of the people from last year went back to their home countries or otherwise weren't able to make it this year. So it was mostly new people, I would say, or maybe about half the team were people who had never gone before. Or I should say, when I say team, I mean half the people that I invited. Because it was kind of tough to find people who wanted to do it. It's over in Tokushima, so it's a little bit away, and it takes up an entire weekend. And it's a sport that, like, most of the people I know have never done before, so they had to, learn how to do it. So in the end, I was only able to get 7 people to say that they could come. And a team for touch rugby is 6, and it's best to have a few substitutes so that when people get tired, they can go out and other people who are fresh can come in. So we had 7, which is already kind of a little bit on the line. I think ideally you'd probably have about 10 players on a team. And yeah, if anybody remembers last year's episode, there were a few injuries during the tournament. I broke my wrist slightly, not a super bad break, but I got slightly injured. Another player on my team broke his collarbone. So even though the sport doesn't have tackling, I guess injuries happen. But this time, there was a pretty major injury before the tournament even began. One of my friends was teaching at a school, and I guess during free time or lunchtime or something like that, he was playing around arm wrestling some of the students, junior high school students. And kind of randomly, while he was arm wrestling a student, he broke his arm. Pretty badly from what I hear. I haven't been able to visit him in the hospital. Hopefully I'll be able to go this weekend. But he said he broke his arm, his humerus, which is the upper arm bone, I guess, the bone between your elbow and your shoulder, which is the biggest bone in your arm, right? And I would think kind of hard to break. But anyway, it happened, and he broke it in 3 places, kind of near his elbow. And so, yeah, he has to get surgery, and he's going to be in the hospital for a while. I think maybe a month or so. The doctor said 2 months, but hopefully it's not going to be that long. But anyway, obviously, because he was out, in the hospital, he couldn't come to the rugby tournament. And then one other person had actually previously said they were busy. I think they had to study for some kind of test or something like that. And so we were down to 5 people, and this was 2 days before the tournament. So probably too late to invite anybody else to get them to come. So we talked and thought maybe the best thing would actually be to pull out of the tournament, to withdraw our team, because we didn't have a full team. So I tried to email the organizers and tell them that, and they said that, well, because everything had been decided and it was last minute, if we didn't come as a team, then the rest of the teams at the tournament wouldn't be able to play the same amount of games. So I said, that's fine. They offered to have substitutes play for us, because it's actually organized by Shikoku University in Tokushima, so that a lot of the students, the Shikoku University students, would be there, and that they could substitute for us and kind of join our team. And, I said thank you. I was pretty grateful, pretty embarrassed to try to have to cancel on a tournament only a few days out. I still wanted to play, obviously, but I felt like with only 5 people, it might not have been possible. But thanks to the subs, they said we should do it. But 2 players on our team, 2 additional players on our team had kind of thought, oh, because we can't have a full team, I guess it's not worth going. So they had already said that they couldn't go anymore. So I tried to convince them and talk to them, and they both agreed to come. But because the tournament was 2 days, both Saturday and Sunday, one person said I can come Saturday, and the other person said I can only come Sunday. So even then, we would have 4 players both days. And so that's what ended up happening on the day of the tournament on Saturday. We went down with 4 people, and we got 3 substitutes from the university. And they helped us in the first game, and actually they were probably better than most of us, because most of us are not super good at touch rugby. But so the way it worked for the first day was there was a group of 5 teams. There were 2 groups of 5 teams. On the first day, there were 10 teams total in the tournament. So we played 4 games against the other 4 teams in our group. And one of those teams, well, actually 2 of those teams were very, very good. They were university teams. And one of those teams had a national representative of the Japanese touch rugby national team, which there is, by the way. There's like a World Cup of touch rugby, and I think it's happening in July in the UK, I think I heard. But anyway, that player, one of the, I don't know if you could call him a pro, but, a Japanese national team member was on the team, and they absolutely smoked us. I mean, like, beat us very badly in the game. I think the score was 16-0. Which in touch rugby, a try, which is when you put the ball into the kind of goal area, called the try area, is only 1 point. In normal rugby, it's 5, but in touch rugby, it's 1. But in this tournament, you can get extra points if you're a girl, because this tournament is like boys and girls play on the same team. In fact, there has to be a girl on the team. Or you can get points if you're over 40, because some of the teams have older players. But this team, I think there were a couple of older players and a few girls, because it was a university team, but I think it was actually university alumni, meaning people who had graduated from Shikoku University. So yeah, I think a couple of their tries might have been worth 2 points or something like that, but really they just scored on us a lot. And then a later game that day was against one of the other English teacher teams, I guess you could call it. So they were from Ehime. They came over from Ehime, and we had met most of them last year. And so we were kind of friends, and it was a fun game because we're kind of at each other's levels, and we know each other, and it wasn't super serious. And our team ended up winning that game, but it wasn't super fair, I'd say. Because we only had 4 players, we were getting, and we had told them ahead of time, they told us that they would give us subs, substitute players. We got a ton of subs from, some of the good teams. Like, I think even maybe in that game, or maybe it was a later game, but I think even that national team representative played on our team for a little bit. And their team, the Ehime team, didn't have any subs at all. They only had 6 players. And so it wasn't super fair. It wasn't exactly like the Kagawa team versus the Ehime team. It was like the Kagawa 4 people plus a bunch of substitutes from very good teams. So that win was, it was a fun game, but still maybe not the fairest game. And then the later 2 games that day, we lost pretty badly as well. And then after that, there was like a party, a dinner, for all of the foreigners. So there was people there from, I think on the second day, some guys from Kochi came, but for the Saturday, party, it was Ehime, Tokushima, and Kagawa were all there. And so we went to like a dinner afterwards and chatted, and then went to a bar and maybe stayed out a bit too late. I think I ended up getting home about 1:30 in the morning or something like that. And then we had a game at, I think it's 10, I forget exactly when it was. It was either 10:20, I think, was when our first game started on Sunday. So, not too much sleep and rest. But anyway, so it was really fun. It was nice to meet everyone. There were some people that we knew from last year, and then quite a few people we hadn't met before. So it was nice to meet some of the other English teachers around Shikoku. And then on Sunday, we played again, and different from last year, the tournament was kind of weird, where because there were 2 teams, one team from Kochi and another team that were only able to make it on the Sunday. So the tournament kind of had to be readjusted so that there was a different group of 6 teams each on the Sunday that it was like slightly based on the results from the Saturday, but not in like a super clear way, at least to me. But again, it's kind of like a fun tournament. It wasn't about who was the absolute best team there or anything like that. It was more about having fun. So it didn't matter a ton. But anyway, last year, kind of on the Sunday, we were able to play against the other English teacher teams because we were all pretty bad. So we all ended up in like the bad group on the Sunday, the lower group, I should say. But this year, because the way they did the tournament was different, we had mostly pretty good teams in our group the second day, even though we only won 1 out of the 4 games. But one of the teams that were in our group for Sunday was the other Kagawa team. So they're not English teachers. They're a few older salarymen. And those are the guys that we actually practice with on Sunday mornings. So it was nice to be able to play against them, even though, again, it wasn't entirely our team. We had subs as well. And it was a very close game. I think the score ended up being 4-3, and we just narrowly lost. But it was really fun playing against them. And then the other, I think we only played 3 games the second day. The other 2 games, we got washed, just absolutely beaten pretty badly. One of them was against a Kochi team that was six guys, I think all in their 40s or older, who have been in Kochi for like 20 years or something like that. And they were really good. I think they hadn't played a real game of touch rugby before, but they like practiced with each other on the weekends or something like that. And they were all really fast and knew the game, even though they hadn't played like an actual tournament or anything like that before. And they beat us pretty badly. But it was still cool, nice to meet those guys and fun to play with them. But in that game, they were really fast, and so there was one guy who had gotten away, and he was going to score a try. Like, he was not too far from the try line, so I was chasing after him, and I remember, like, I'm not gonna catch him in time, so I thought, I have to run faster, and as soon as I tried to run faster, I felt something in my hamstring, which was the back of my leg kind of pull a little bit and started to hurt. So I immediately stopped and asked for a substitution to get off the field. And it ended up not being super bad. Like I could walk okay and everything like that. And it didn't hurt too much. But I decided because it felt kind of bad that I should probably take the next game off. So then, I forgot to mention that the player that was supposed to come on Sunday, the second day of the tournament, ended up getting COVID, and so wasn't able to come. So on the second day, when the guy who could only come Saturday went home, obviously, we were down to 3 people. And then after this game, when I got injured, our team was down to 2 people, which is, it was barely a team anymore. We weren't even half the players on the squad. So in the last game, it was kind of funny. It was like anybody who kind of wanted to play an extra game would come in and sub for our team. And so a bunch of people were playing in and subbing in and out. And it was pretty fun to watch because obviously I wasn't able to play. But that game happened to be against one of the best teams in the tournament, and we got pretty badly beaten, even with all the substitutions. But yeah, I mean, even though we didn't do so well in terms of like wins and losses, it was really fun. I had a good time, especially it's fun to meet people like English teachers from all over Shikoku, and also, people who are into rugby and stuff like that. So yeah, I had a really good time, and I'd like to go again next year if I can. Although I think because of the player situation, if I can't get at least 10 people to commit like ahead of time, then I might join the other Kagawa team of the salarymen team, or I might join like the Tokushima or the Ehime group of English teachers. Just because, I don't want to kind of worry the organizers with having to try to find substitutes for us if we can't field a full team. And I don't have to wait till next year actually for the last tournament, because at the end of this one on Sunday, the team from Hiroshima said that they would have another touch rugby tournament in November. So I think all the Shikoku English teachers were trying to get like a Shikoku team to go, because Hiroshima's far, especially for Kochi and Tokushima. So maybe we won't be able to get as many people to go over there, but if we pool all of our players together, we can hopefully put out a team of 10 or so people. So that's the plan. That's about it. I mean, I think I'm going to try to keep playing touch rugby on the weekends with the salarymen team, and I'm going to hopefully try to get more English teachers in Kagawa interested in it so that hopefully we can have a full team. But that's about it. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.